Very good afternoon and good morning to everyone. You can hear me well, right, Shabir?
Yep, Arpan, loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. So, we'll do a very quick introduction. We are also expecting a few more people to join in, so we'll start a little slow and then we'll pick up. So, I'm Arpan Makwana and I'm heading the innovation practice for EVOS globally. I've got Shabir with me, who is managing Middle East as the region for the innovation practice. What we are going to talk today about is how we are using robotic process automation, as we call RPA, how we are automating different types of business processes in HR and finance, which help not only the organization but also individual to focus more on value adding activities rather than doing mundane tasks or repetitive tasks which hardly add any value to the organization and the self development and growth. So that's the core topic for today. We've seen a lot of organizations benefit from the kind of automation that we have done so far, and they've been able to uh, transform their organization in a digital way, trying to make sure that all the repetitive activities or all the activities which do not add value, wherein there is no human intervention required, we try to automate all those processes to make a better ecosystem within the organization. So moving forward, a very quick introduction about EVOS, what we do and who we are. So if you look at the overall portfolio, so we implement complete Oracle suites. So we are platinum partners of Oracle, and we implement all different types of solutions for Oracle, which include ERPs, EPM. Then you talk about HCM, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So we cover almost all different pillars that Oracle serves. Apart from that, we also implement non-Oracle solutions like what we are talking today. So like automation tools which include UiPath and Automation Anywhere. So these are different types of services or different types of products that we implement across the globe. So EVOS has an interesting journey. So around 14 years back, we started our operations from Middle East as the region. We had our initial customers in Saudi as well as in UAE, and that's where we originated from. As of now, we are present in more than 30 countries, implementing different types of solutions for our customers and helping them to digitally transform their work environments. We've been fortunate enough, and that helps us to also get in the core business area. So we've been uh, given a place in the Magic Quadrant of Gartner, and this helps us. This has given us a lot of recognition and a more confidence boost in our customer base. So we've done more than 1,000 cloud customers across the globe, as you can see on the map here. So yes, we are a very, very local organization, but we have also grown from being a local organization to an international brand. So we have helped organizations to move their workloads from on-premise to the cloud applications. We have also helped organizations to improve their business processes by adding a lot of consulting flavor. And we've helped organizations to kind of build a strong roadmap that helps them not only to create their foundation in terms of their basic applications, but also advanced solutions like as we discussed about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So these are not something some technologies that can be looked at standalone. So we have kind of integrated these technologies or these tools within the business so that the business can get a real benefit out of these types of solutions that we implement. So that was more on what we do in EVOSs and how we are placed. I would also talk about certain key technologies that organizations are looking forward to once they have their basic ERP systems in place. So these are certain, different technologies. As I earlier mentioned, all these technologies don't have to be independent, standalone kind of technologies. These have to be tightly integrated with the business. It has to be tightly integrated with the IT and infrastructure, which is the existing applications, so that you can get the real output, you can get the tangible return on investment from the existing ecosystem and the business processes. So what these different tools do is it helps us to not only simplify the business processes, but also make sure that our processes are in line with the best practices in the industry. It also gives us a lot of cutting edge in terms of saving costs. It helps us to identify the right areas where we can save our expenses, ultimately improving our bottom line. And it also helps us to improve the core competencies of our team. So our team also gets good exposure to the newer tools that are available in the market to help them perform better. So ultimately, all we are talking about is improving the performance of the organization using different tools and technologies. So in terms of different tools, I'll go from digital assistant as the first part, which is the chatbots. So chatbots are an easy way to communicate with different applications. So let's say if I want to raise my leave request, or if I want to approve certain leaves, I want to create certain POs or invoices. So I can do a lot of business related activities directly from the chatbot. So we understand, I mean, everyone uses chat engines these days, whether it is WhatsApp or Microsoft Teams, or whether it is Google Chat. So people are very well versed with chatbots or digital assistants. So we want to utilize these digital assistants to interact with our corporate applications, which ultimately helps us to do our activities faster. We don't need to go through the learning curve of how different applications work within the organization. And it also improves the overall throughput of employees. So this helps us to reduce the learning curve, because you might change your backend platform or your ERP systems, but the way you interact with the digital assistant will always remain same. So people don't have to learn new technologies. They can still work with the changing applications and changing infrastructure without having to change the way they interact with these applications. So it helps them to reduce that learning curve, and also makes them more efficient, because they don't have to open up different applications to do different transactions. Chatbot can actually integrate with all your backend systems as well as your front end systems, to so that you can do all these activities from a mobile device, either through chat or through voice. So that's the first part. The second is Internet of Things. We've talked a lot about Internet of Things in different webinars. We've seen so many seminars happening across the globe. So it has actually given a lot of improvement in different work areas, whether it is about fleet monitoring of your different vehicles, or it is production monitoring, or whether it is real time updates of your workers or your assets, the health and maintenance of your assets. So it has great amount of output that really helps organizations to save time and money, and also reduce downtime for their assets or for their production lines. The other part is cloud infrastructure. So we understand that not everyone or every organization has the foundation to move to Oracle or any SaaS applications, right? So we help organizations to move all their workloads from on-premise to the cloud infrastructure, so that they can get rid of their data centers, they can get rid of their hosting expenses and overhead maintenance costs. That's how we have helped a lot of organizations to not only lift and shift their applications, but also add a lot of digital flavor to their applications when we move them to the cloud infrastructure environment. This helps. Obviously, everyone knows how the cloud infrastructure can help you to save a lot of time and effort and cost. But we've also given an edge by adding business processes improvement from consulting perspective, so that we don't just lift and shift our problems into cloud. We enhance them, or we improve the business processes to get the right effective output from these kind of movements. The important area on the right hand side, as you can see, is robotic process automation, wherein we talk about automating all different types of processes within the organization, whether it is finance related, HR related, operations related. So we can automate a plethora of different types of tasks which we do in organization on a day-to-day basis. So RPA, we've seen in terms of the priority matrix, comes at the top for organizations, because they want to automate as many tasks as possible, and they want to utilize their workforce in a more valuable or in a more effective way, rather than asking people to just enter data or validate data or do certain activities which an RPA tool can easily do, wherein there is no intelligence required. The other area is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So this has given a good amount of boost in organizations for improvement in their efficiency to deliver services, as well as it has helped organizations to perform better by forecasting different types of KPIs, whether it is customer related or whether it is finance related or operation related forecasts. So AI and machine learning directly sits on top of your business, giving you the output that you are expecting. And there are a lot of different vertical specific solutions that we have delivered so far. So I'll not deep dive there, but yeah, AI and machine learning goes hand in hand with your business processes and your solutions that you have got on board. The last, again, a very important part, we've seen a lot of companies having their data warehouses on premise or on cloud, wherein they have to invest a lot of time and effort to manage and maintain the data warehouse by themselves. What Oracle has done is they've created an autonomous data warehouse layer, which is intelligent enough to manage and maintain itself. So it is like a self-repairing database, which does not require any optimization or any effort in terms of management and maintenance of the data warehouse. So this is a great tool. I think it's a unique tool that Oracle has released, and I don't think we've seen any competition across the globe to this autonomous data warehouse. So it helps to make sure that you get all your reporting, whether it is your management and statutory reporting, or even advanced reporting, which is the business line reporting. How do we do the forecasts? So, the artificial intelligence and machine learning layer sits on top of your data warehouse and can give you a lot of forecasts based on the data that is available in the data warehouse. And the data warehouse can also automatically extract all your financial, non-financial data from different sources to give you a unified view. So it's a great tool. Again, so these are all different solutions that we've got on board as a part of the portfolio, which are being used by different companies to enhance or improve their performance. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are the alliances, as we clearly mentioned that we believe in doing a lot of automation. So when it comes to automation, uh, it goes beyond Oracle. It goes into different types of solutions. So we've got a great partnership with different organizations who give different types of solutions on top of our businesses. So if you see, we have like categorized the overall solutions or tools into different areas. So if, starting from the first area, you look about you see the data automation part, wherein we can use Denodo, which helps us to do real-time reporting using data virtualization, wherein you don't need to create a data warehouse kind of a structure. So we have different tools based on the requirements of the organization. So we can have Denodo for real-time data reporting, and autonomous data warehouse for artificial intelligence and forecasting and all those kind of reporting structures. So that's where Oracle comes into picture. We've also got the other part wherein we modernize the cloud application by helping you to get rid of your data warehouse or your data center, sorry. uh, so we can help organizations to move to either Azure or Oracle Cloud or AWS. So with our capabilities through Mastic, this has helped us to extend our work area beyond only Oracle. So that's where Mastic has great amount of capabilities on Azure AWS side as well. On automation from a digitalization perspective, we've got excellent partnership with UiPath Automation Anywhere. So these are our key solutions wherein we talk about how do we automate our business processes and operations in terms of the overall automation roadmap. So that's what we are going to talk about today. So if we move forward, so this is what automation means in a nutshell, or as a whole. So if you see what does automation do actually, it helps us to enhance the customer experience. As I mentioned, it gives us great amount of support in terms of managing our activities and completing them on time. It has good amount of productivity because we don't need any human intervention to do these kind of repetitive or monotonous activities within the organization. And you can have a couple of bots doing your processes, or you can have a series of different bots performing different activities for you. So we will go and see different types of automation use cases that we have done so far, and what are the potentials in the next few slides. But it also helps us to do a lot of cost saving and make sure that all our compliances are accurately met. So you can have very specific rules that the RPA can follow, and check all your compliances in terms of making sure that you are compliant from data security perspective, you are compliant from different processes and steps perspective. It also gives great accuracy. Obviously, as bots don't get tired. Bots can do the task repetitively for 24 hours continuously. So it gives us great amount of output and accuracy. Apart from that, it also helps us to make sure that we utilize our resources in the right way, or we reutilize our workforce in the right value adding activities, rather than just data entry or uh, performing repetitive tasks. So this helps also boosts a lot of employee satisfaction, because we want people to grow, we want people to do uh, more intelligent activities, or perform analytics. Giving a quick example, we would not want people to gather data and prepare reports. We would rather utilize people to do analysis of what went wrong, or how we can improve based on the reports that the RPA can generate for us. So that's a quick example. What we offer is, as a part of the overall solution, we offer entire process automation from end to end, which does not require any human intervention. So we can create these kind of processes or automation in the organization. We also create certain intelligent automation, wherein they're based on the output that you get from one process. Based on that, the bot needs to decide what has to be done next, or use its own built-in intelligence to do certain decision making, or certain activities based on the output that you get from one process. So there are a lot of intelligent or cognitive process automation that we can do as a part of the implementation. um, so as a journey, we have seen organizations picking up few processes to start with, and then expanding the automation journey or roadmap throughout the organization, trying to involve more and more stakeholders. So that's how we do make sure that we do a lot of consulting. We try to identify different processes for different business areas, and then automate them to make sure that end users get quick output of the automation, and they can start utilizing the processes which are automated from day one. So that's how we try to provide support, wherein we identify the processes, we help to automate the processes, and also build a roadmap saying that these are priority two um, kind of processes. So how do we take them forward? So we create that kind of a roadmap of automation for different organizations. So from a capability perspective, we've got over 100 certified automation consultants. We've got more than 30 pre-built solutions as a part of our Center of Excellence team. And we've also got excellent subject matter experts who come from different verticals. So we've got people coming from public sector, from logistics, from real estate, healthcare, hospitality. So we've got these verticalized subject matter expert who understand not only the vertical, but also what are the key data points which need to be focused there. So we are partnered with the leading providers. Like as you can see, we are partnered with UiPath. We are partnered with Automation Anywhere. So this helps us to expand the capabilities, not only restricting to one particular tool. These are our customers that we've picked from across the globe. There are certain organizations who are in Middle East, and then there are organizations which are from UK and US as well. So this gives us a great amount of understanding as to how people are automating processes in other part of the world, and we get that intelligence, or we get that experience on board to serve our customers in Middle East. So this is what uh, RPA can do, or how it works. So what it can do in terms of the processes, how do we identify what are the right processes? So we pick up any repetitive or high volume kind of processes. Similarly, we pick up applications which are stable enough wherein automation can easily run. We see wherein there are processes which has a lot of which is like error prone. There can be problems when the user does not pay attention. So we pick up those kind of areas. Similarly, we make sure that we try to pick up more standardized and mature processes and we try to automate those. There are certain rule based or step by step processes. So these are again just to give you a good overview of what are the right processes, or which are the potential processes that you can pick up. So any rule based or any step based activity, for example, you talk about, a very quick example to do is, if the user has to log into a particular application, do particular steps, and then extract a report and send it to an email. So that can be an easy step by step process. So we understand that there is no decision making involved, there is no human intervention required if we automate that. So those type of processes are a key potential processes that we can start automation with. So what it can do, or what it can replicate on the right side, if you see, it can log into any applications, it can navigate into any different screens, it can pick up data from the screens or from Excel sheet, do a lot of data entry. You can do mouse clicks. So it basically mimics or replicates every activity that a human or a user can do as a part of the applications. So it can do multiple logins, logouts, it can refer to Excel sheets or emails to extract data or to put data in there. Similarly, it can log into multiple applications. If you want to pick up data from one application and use that data to do the data entry in the other application by processing the data. So it can do these kind of activities, and it also adheres all the security or regulatory environments requirements in terms of your VPNs, in terms of your compliances. So it follows all those protocols. So this way, as I can say, anything that a human can do in terms of operating different applications, extracting data, doing all these activities, the bot can easily replicate that. So, Shabir, would you want to take this up?
Yeah, thanks, Arpan. Yeah, definitely. So now, as Arpan explained, right, there are certain process contenders, which are the processes which are highly repeatable, or let's say unstable, and they are rule based. They require a lot of human intervention, human to do those data entry works. Now, how would you identify those processes? What are the, let's say, steps that you need to do to identify those high potential candidates of RP automation? So what do we do is, so we have prepared a four-step program to identify and prioritize those processes, to qualify those processes as a part of, are there fitting processes? I mean, are they, because not all processes could be, wherein automation is required, right? So how do we start is, we start identifying potential uh, activities involved, potential FT, let's say the consultant involved or the person involved in doing those activity. What is the volume of the process? Is it mission critical? Is this process human error prone? Does it have any regulatory? Does it have any customer facing effect, and so on? What are the risks involved in doing that potential process? Let's say if you automate that, what are the risks? So we identify those based on this criteria. What are the potential candidates? And then what we do is we qualify those processes. I mean, with respect to, are they rule based, are they repeatable, yeah, they standardized. I mean, there's no change that is going to happen in the process. For example, let's say if you have an invoice creation process, I'll take a simple example. If an invoice creation process, it has been same over a period of time, it's not going to change drastically in the next 2 to 3 years, let's say. Okay, so that could be a stable process to pick up. Then process, does it have any other exceptions? What are the integrations involved? What is the workflow, and so on? So we characterize, put the process characteristics in place, and we try to identify what are the different systems involved when the process executes, right? Is it an UI driven? Does it integrates with a desktop application? Does it has to open a web application? Is there any manual intervention required within a process, and so on? So we, once we put just qualifying criteria in the end, it helps us to evaluate, can we eliminate any redundancy or inefficiency in the process? Can we improve the process? Can we make certain minor changes, not tweak the process in a way to, let's say, uh, to optimize the process of, in order of execution workflow? Then we evaluate if this process is, let's say, optimized process, for example, and it, then we calculate what is the amount of development effort required to execute that process with respect to development. Okay, what will be the number of screens we need to navigate? What are the data sources we have to use? What are the external systems that we have to open? Once we have that evaluation done, it will give you a kind of a matrix to identify, and help you to prioritize based on the cost and the complexity involved. Okay, what is the one-time cost, would be the repetitive cost, what is the let's say software cost behind, let's say hardware cost going behind, and what are the pros and cons with respect to the productivity gain, time reduction, so on. So we help you identify your high potential candidates by preparing that matrix for you. That when we do this kind of engagement with our customers, we help you prepare that kind of a detailed matrix, which I'll talk about in my next slides, which will help you to take a decision on which process to automate. Now, once you have identified those processes, so let's say you prepare a list of around 40 processes across your organization covering all different subject areas or business areas, then comes the difficult part to select which process is the right process to automate. Okay, because as I said earlier, not all processes are meant to automate, right? There are certain processes which will require human decision, which will require human intelligence in order to create or let's execute. So let's say no. So we go through that process. For example, if it is a highly manual process, is it a rule-based process? Yes, no. So we have created this kind of a workflow, which will help us to put the process characteristics across it and put a weightage of, what is the impact of that process in that sense. Let's say if you're talking about process A, B, and C, we put all different process characteristics across it, and then we use a Six Sigma methodology to find out which are the most potential candidate process and which are the processes which are less potential candidate. Okay, so we go through this workflow, we apply, let's say, if all this processes, the answer is yes, if the, and then we choose which, if this process can be changed, it can be implemented. Is it a high volume process? Will a minor automation help over here to improve the process? Yes, no, and then if this requires any system change. So of this all answers fall in place, we will get, which process to automate. For example, if you're talking about process A, B, and C, if you can see over here, these are highly manual and repetitive, rule-based, electronic inputs to be read. It has standard input times. It has got low exception rate, high volume of transactions, and very minimal system change to be done. That means that is a best fit process to automate. So this help you, this workflow that we have created helps you identify and select which process to do the automation. Now, when we talk about automation, right? So automation is not something that can be applied, let's say, in one subject area. It goes across your business. It could be right from your supply chain processes, your procure to pay cycle, wherein right from your vendor selection to your payment process, invoice process, to order to cash cycle, right from booking orders to validating the invoices, validating the billing receipts, doing the cash collections in the system entries, and so on. So right from your procure to pay to your human resource cycles, wherein you're recruiting, your compensation benefit to your employees, training, running their payroll, running that non-recurring payrolls, and so on. So all these kind of activities which require a lot of humans to do data entry in the system are all different candidates of automation. Now, based on as our experience of working across more than around 1,000 customers across the globe, implementing different ERP or front office, back office solutions, doing a lot of integrations, we understand what are the potential processes across different business areas which are, let's say, low-hanging fruits for automation. So let us talk about processes within HR. So if you see a typical life of an HR user, they are usually involved in a lot of manual intensive tasks. They are mostly dealing with employee data. They're mostly dealing with uploading information of employees into the system, running their payrolls, giving them offer letters. Let's say if you're a recruitment user, most of your time goes into identifying those candidates, searching their profiles on LinkedIn or let's say different job portals, giving them offer letter, getting the employee onboarded, let's say then applying the payroll and so on. So there are a lot of other activities that an HR user goes through, and those are all very much high cost processes, because if these are just error in this process could be a huge impact, right? It can create a lot of impact on the, let's say, employee experience when the employees engage with an organization. So the margin of error has to be minimal, and the compliance has to be, very large compliance to be in place, because if you're dealing with an employee payroll, any mistake will be devastating. And the cost that goes, operational cost that goes behind HR user is maximum in any organization. Maintaining this HR employee life cycle, it is one of the challenging part of most of the organization, and that is where most of the main power are engaged in doing a lot of manual activities. So based on that, there are a lot of sub-processes areas which can be, let's say, very high potential candidate. So we have a heat map of all the different various processes of HR, right from let's say hire to retire, wherein, let's say, if your employee so if you can see on the screen, we have highlighted certain areas which are high potential, certain areas which are medium potential of automation, and certain low areas of potential. So let's focus on high areas of potential, right? So let's say sourcing of candidates, hiring of candidates from different, let's say, LinkedIn or different portal. That could be a process which you can create an RPA bot which will go into, let's say, LinkedIn and download their CVs and get that information to you to upload in your HR back office system, right? Then the employee verification, the documents the employee uploads, right? The passport copies, their, let's say, MRS IDs, or any legal document that they upload, their college certificate and so on. An RPA with an OCR solution can scan those documents and validate that it is matching the information that the candidate has uploaded in the portal, right? So that could be one of the areas where a lot of human manpower goes in verification. That can be one of the use case of automation. Then creating and managing reports, right? So once you have that employee done, once this employee is hired in your system, you locked in his information in the system, you need to put a reporting layer. Let's say how many candidates I recruited in last 1 month, what are the job vacancies I've closed, what are job vacancies still open, and so on. So that reporting part, they don't have to go and do it manually. An RPA bot can generate that report for you. Similarly, with respect to managing an employee, employee performances, let's say if you want to upload this data of your employees into your performance systems, that could be one of the daunting tasks. If you have created one standard template, that template can be uploaded into your system, and there's employee performance every year, because it's a yearly cycle, right? Let's say a seasonal cycle, for example, that will could be one of the major potential human activity that can be automated. Similarly, let's say compensation, wherein where are most of your employees, in the region. Let's say they're raising certain expenses, they're raising their travel allowances, let's say submitting those expenses, right? Approval of those expenses, and then the payment of those expenses through payroll. That could be one of the very key area of high potential for automation, because this is an activity that HR spends most of the time in, right? They apart from the usual work, they will have to, let's say, approve their expenses, make sure those expenses receipts are correct, and then run, let's say, a payroll element cycle to release the payment, right? So that is one key high potential areas of automation within HR. So if you, let's say, if we go one level deep, right? This is from a bird's eye view. Let's go one level deep. So what RPA bots can do with respect to each different sub processes within your larger processes. So for example, for leave management, your leave management administration, leave amendment. Let's say if your employee has submitted a self-service request where he wants to cancel a leave or wants to approve a leave, an RPA bot can read that email and directly do that update in your system. Similarly, your time tracking application. So for example, if there is most of the time tracking is done, let's say, through a third-party solution, and timesheets has to be uploaded into the system, an RPA bot can directly download that Excel or CSV or whatever file and update into your ERP system. Similarly, your payrolls, as I mentioned, processing of payrolls is a monthly activity. Your HR has to do every month, and it's kind of a straightforward process, which is a repeatable process. And there are hardly any changes, let's say, running a payroll cycle. So that payroll cycle running can be done in an automated way, wherein your validation of a payroll with respect to the time tracking, with respect to the leaves, okay, all that rules can be configured into an RPO bot, and it can generate and run the payroll for you. It can deduct the taxation. It can deduct the let's say any advance payment the customer, your employee has taken, or create any ad hoc payment done with respect to uh, any non-recurring payment that has to be released to the employee. One of the major areas where HR has spent a lot of time is uploading their employee data, changing their job profiles, changing their let's say if the employee changes an address, he sends an email with a new address, capturing that into the system could be one of the potential area where RP can help. Going towards the recruiting part, so talent sourcing, as I said earlier, performing candidate sourcing, searching for candidates, creating requisition on your portals to get that upgraded let's say your talent program, searching of those candidates. After searching of candidates, recruiting is one of the major areas where potential RPA can help with respect to screening of your candidate profile using an OCR solution, scanning their CVs, scanning their uploaded documents, creating offers for your employees, and then checking the labor contract, creating that framework for you is from the legal point of view, managing your candidate hub, employing right from managing your employee reporting. Let's say I said about how many candidates were hired in last month against my requisition query in my HR portal, and generating that MIS report for you for your management reporting. So these are on a high level certain HR use cases, and that we have seen, based on our experience of implementing RPA projects across the globe. These are, certain high potential candidate areas and are low-hanging fruits where an HR user can think about automation. Now, let's talk about different subject areas around, let's say, ERP. Okay, what are the different processes that could be a high potential candidate for automation with respect to your procure to pay cycle, right? So let's talk about your procurement activities. So if you see in procurement activities, creating and submitting requisition is one of the time where most of the procurement users spend a lot of time, sourcing, creating of, let's say, an RFI, an RFQ. They have approval process to go through within the organization. And once this RFQ, and let's say selecting of suppliers, selecting of items, well, that's a lot of manual activity that they have to do in the system in order to generate an RFI or RFQ within system, and then to be published to the suppliers, right? So that is a very lengthy and a manual time-consuming activity that an procurement user has to do. So that could be one of the major potential candidate of RP automation. And then once, let's say, you receive the supplier bids, right, and then you have to create you selected, so awarding of let's say your RFQ or your bids, you have to create those purchase orders. So based on your final selected supplier proposals, RPA can create purchase orders against those RFQs, and then against those RFQs, uh, the supplier invoices can be captured in an automated way. Supplier sends those invoices, let's say, through a portal or through an email or by any other means. Those scanned copy of invoices, or let's say PDF or whatever images that customer sends or your supplier sends, can be scanned through an OCR solution, and that data can be captured into the ERP. So these are very much high potential areas where we see an RPA making an impact for a user. Similarly, from the finance side, releasing of payment, releasing of your standard GL reports, updating your GL entry, matching your invoices against your SRV, a two-way matching or three-way matching. All these processes can be one of the major candidates of automation. Bank reconciliation. So we have seen a lot of our customers in the Middle East where bank reconciliation or let's say period closing is one of the major challenges. They take around more than let's say a week's time every month in order to close their bank accounts, right? Downloading bank statements from different various banks, comparing with their GL records, and making sure that your books are closed in your ERP. So this is one of the major potential areas of RP automation. Now, going deep dive, so recording a journal entries, as I said, this is one of the major potential of where RP bots can help. So we've seen customers using RP bots to directly identify and post journal through email. So whenever they receive this information from their suppliers or customers through email or Excel or PDF files, RPA bots can read those files and update those entries into your ERP systems. Then automatically attaching the support documentation. So let's say supplier sends any update in any documentation or any invoices, updating those invoices into your systems is one of the major areas where RPA can help. Similarly, it can also notify. So RPA bot once does, if it is not able to, let's say, understand the information correctly, it can send back an email to the suppliers and that the XYZ information was not correct and need to resend those attachments again, right? So that kind of validation, smart RPA bots can help you to automate and reduce the workload on your let's say procurement or supply chain users. Similarly, intercompany accounting, wherein you're matching your intercompany transactions, your cash settlements, because if you're doing some intercompany transfers, those cash settlements, in your GL books is where an RPA bot can automatically reconcile and update your GL and subledgers across different entities. Reconciliation, as I said, is one of the major areas where RPA bots helps. Reconciling your GL to subledgers and GL to GL, reconciling your bank statement with your cash book, with your petty cash, and so on. So all this is very potential RPA candidates. Why? Because RPA bot can, let's say, and I'll give you an example when you're working with one of our customers where they are using RPA to do the bank reconciliation. So what they have done is, they have created an RPA bot. We have them create this RPA bot to log into bank portals, download those bank statements, and then so these are around like 15 banks. The RPA bot will log into all different 15 banks, download the Excel files from the banks, the bank statement, put them into one secure location, and then generate a report into ERP system to get the bank books from the ERP, and then do combine matching across the systems and generate, let's say, a standard MT940 format, and then upload that back into the system. So this will, it has reduced a lot of manual work from the end users. So end users just have to validate the data before it has been uploaded in the system, rather than doing the manual activity of downloading those statements and comparing line by line. So I'll talk about those case study in my next slides. Now, going to supply chain use cases, as I said, vendor management, when creating or managing a vendor data whenever the supplier sends their documents, or let's say supplier addresses, or let's say supplier data is expired in a system, let's say registry is expired in a system, you can send an automated reminder through an RPA to the supplier saying that you need to update so and so document in the system to stay valid. Okay. Similarly, your purchase order management, processing your right from your PRs against your PO, creating those orders in the system, validating that orders, and then validating the manage workflow across that order. Invoice management is one of the major areas. Automatic invoice uploads from either from email or supplier portal, scanning those invoices using an OCR solution, creating those entries in the system, validating that the header and the invoices, line items in the invoices are correct as per the PO, and let's say rejecting those invoices before it comes into the system, right? So that means you are validating data before it goes into the system and avoiding unnecessary headache for the finance users to validate the data. Okay. Similarly, performing a 3 or 2-way matching of invoices against the PO, analysis of unmatched invoices against, let's say, if it is a match against wrong vendor type or wrong item in the invoice against the PO, and so on. So these are all very valid and very useful RPA use cases for a supply chain or let's say finance users, and this have actually helped a lot of our customers to reduce their workloads on their procurement and supply chain users. So going forward now, after the use cases, I'll talk about, so now we've seen, what are different use cases. Now, how to do that? How do we help our customers to implement this automation, and what are the various type of automation that you can do? So I'll quickly talk about what are the various type of automation that customers are implementing in their environment. So the first one is pretty straightforward, right? 100% human. You don't need any robots. That could be done with your team. So this is where most of the customers are there today who are not started their RP journey. And there are cases where end users are working in tandem with the attended robot. So when you say attended robot, it means a robot will do a certain activity, but also it will wait for a user input in order to proceed further. So for example, let's say if there is an invoice and an invoice has got the correct data, but still it needs certain validation with respect to, let's say, digital signature before it's getting uploaded in the system, or let's say sent to a supplier. That means it is going to wait for an user input in order to process it further. Okay, that could be an RPA bot, which is attended RPA bot, which is attended by human to do a certain action, and then RPA does the rest of the processes in an automated way. That could be a hybrid bot, wherein the attended processes uses a human to kick off an attended process. So, for example, let's say a process wherein a human would initiate process, for example, hiring of a employee. Okay, so let's say a human will trigger an RPA bot saying that I need to hire so and so employee, and then the bot will take it over from there and go into the sourcing of different job portals and download the candidate information and give it back to the uh, giving back to the end user to evaluate and, let's say, take a decision on which candidate to hire, right? So that could be a process which is a hybrid process wherein the human initiates a process, and that in that process which is initiated is completely unattended, and it finishes jobs and come back to a human saying that, okay, now tell me what next to do, right? So that could be one process where a hybrid automation is then the picture. And then there are fully automated processes. For example, they are fully unattended, 100% automation. For example, the invoice process, which I mentioned about, it could be one of very easy example of 100% automation, wherein, let's say, a supplier sends an invoice to an email, a bot reads an email, scans that invoices. If it's incorrect, it rejects it from there on and send it back to the supplier saying, no, the data is incorrect. Or if the data is correct, then it will go into the ERP system, upload the data against that PO, and will save the record in the system. So that is an example of fully attended 100% automation bot. Now, I'll talk about one of the case studies of our customers in the Middle East, where we are currently under execution of a large RPA program, where we have seen, some immediate benefits, and also we have done a future roadmap with them. So customer is Al Hayat Investment, where we have done. We are working on one of the bank reconciliation solution, where the number of days they are trying to reduce is from number of days of 7 to 2. So currently they are spending 7 days to reconcile the bank accounts. And they want to make it under 2 days. So that is where a kind of impact that RPA will give Al Hayat Investment to reduce their workloads in the finance department. So the book closing, which takes 7 days, will come under 2 days. That's a very huge impact when you talk from a business point of view. So the books are getting closed on time. Their management are able to see what is the incoming amount of money and what is the revenue they've generated and what is the cost they've spent. So this is a very huge impact on a business point of view. Similarly, they are going to reduce the errors in matching of the invoices in the SRV booking. They're going to have a full business compliance from the business point of view. So as I said, they're bringing down the number of days from 2 to 7. That means they're complying the business timeline in closing the book. They're complying on the invoice data that is getting created in the system. The invoice rejections are getting lowered. The human errors, when entering those invoices, are going to get eliminated completely when they're going to do this 100% automation. And similarly, removal of non-value adding processes. For example, why we push our customers towards RPA is because removal of those non-value adding activities, right? Like, let's say, for example, downloading files from the portal, right? That's not a job of a procurement user or finance user, right? They're not meant to do that. They're trained or they're educated to do more important tasks. Let's say, working on the KPIs which are going to create a business impact rather than doing those mundane activities. So the future roadmap that we have with Al Hayat Investment is, the target is to reduce 70% cost saving in the manual efforts. So currently the manpower they're spending, this is the amount of cost saving they're going to look at in next 1 year. So that's very short duration when you see a large automation program starting up. So this is what they're looking at. They're looking at fully automated invoice processing. They're training the internal IT team, in order to manage the RPA by themselves, manage the development environment, and then do additional processes in order to covering different various departments. So right now we started with the finance department, but we have a long roadmap of covering warehouse and the HR department as well. And apart from that, so I'll talk about different customer impact that the RPA has had, right? So as I said, we have implemented this RPA across the globe to various different customers. So one of them, NHS, is one of the largest healthcare service provider in the United Kingdom. So we, during the COVID times, which was one of the most challenging times that we have as in humanity faced in last 100 years. So that times, NHS see large increase in requirement of PPA unit, procurement RFU cycles. So they did not have enough manpower. All of them are working remotely. They did not have enough manpower to create those PPA requirements into the ERP system. So they came to us and we helped them to put an RPA bot in just 3 days of time, wherein this RPA bot would generate an RFQ requisition and will complete the entire requisition approval of purchasing new PP kits for their healthcare staff. So it was a big impact, and it really solved the problem for them, and they were able to scale up the healthcare facilities to the citizens by implementing bots, which was deployed in just 3 days of time. Similarly, we've even done, implemented RPA projects to various customers, let's say like Together, where it helped them to delete their repetitive mundane tasks and freeing up the 50% of the users, which was spending the time on data extraction. So we put a RPA bot to do data extraction activity and help them create that reporting which was required for the management. Similarly, we have implemented bots for home office, wherein home office is one of the immigration gateway for UK. We enable a bot for validating asylum data which they receive from different applications, extracting those data and uploading into the auditing system, for them to take a decision. Similarly, for Piramal, across the various bots, financial processes, we implemented bots, and that helped them reduce their time by 90%, with 0% error rate. So the entire account payable, account invoices was 100% automated, and it eliminated, entire human activity of creating invoices and submitting those invoices into the ERP systems. So these are the various business impacts, live customer references that we are talking about, who have implemented RPA, who started their RPA journey, and have seen results in a very short duration of time. Now, how do we, as an EVOS, how do we start our RPA journey? So, start with the discovery phase, where we do key activities around, context assessment. We assess your processes, we prioritize, as you saw earlier, we help them to select the right process candidate, and then, we work with the user to give us a key inputs around what are the KPIs, what are the challenges, and so on. And then we do the assessment with them, we do a discovery workshop, and we help them to generate that end-to-end discovery reports, which will give them a business case of and recommendation of which process to go for, what is the tangible output, what would be a dollar value output they can get if they implement an RPA solution. So what we do is we start small. When we tell our journey with our customers, we start small. We start with a couple of processes to see what was the business impact they're creating. We help them understand the what approach to take. We help them understand the business case, and then within the 4 months of time, we're able to set up a center of excellence to the customer, which helps them to scale it up to an enterprise level. And what we do is we do end-to-end support. That means we start from identifying the processes, implementing it, help you with the software licenses required, with hardware licenses required, development of the bot, training your team to do this bot, where we have combined right from going from a task level to a process level, where our business expertise from different business functions, from healthcare, from understanding of, let's say, healthcare environment, or let's say manufacturing environment, or any line of business, right? So we can do our consultancy, we will provide you the help needed to understand what could be the best practices done. So we help you right from the task level to the process level, and you can see the benefits within the next 6 weeks of time. So when I say 6 weeks of time, this is the life cycle of our RPA development for any processes, the sprints that we do. So right from the discovery week, we end up with a POC in 2 weeks, and then we run a pilot project. We implement a pilot project in 2 weeks of time, which is a production ready process, and you can use it in production right in the week number 5. Right, you will have your production, start getting the benefit of an automation from week number 5. Now, what do we recommend as a part of our RPA program, or let's say innovation program for automation, is to thinking beyond RPA. So RPA is the first step towards speeding up your human activities, but the idea is to go beyond RPA. That means to go with the cognitive process automation and journey towards an AI-enabled environment, wherein it is more of an AI-driven solution, AI-driven environment in your organization to take your different various business decisions, to do a lot of that human interaction is reduced. Your most of your solutions are taken care by an automated bot or an automated digital assistant, which replies to your query of your customers, or a beta machine learning kind of a solution, which helps you generate those intelligent reports, algorithm-based analytics to your business management to take a decision, and so on. So this is where we bring in our value, right from RPA, putting in unattended or unattended bot to an chatbot computer vision kind of a solution to a machine learning based analytics to give you an entire automation journey. So I hope that this is could be this is of value to you. We understand that most of our customers are looking for RPA journey, and we would welcome you to have a session with us and to have help you do a free assessment of your business processes to understand where we can help you with your RPA journey. So feel free to send your questions. We have Q&A. So I hope we have completed in time. We have a time for Q&A session. Feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll be more than happy to answer on that. So we have one of the questions saying that how we can start an RPA journey, uh, and then what are the timeline required to automate, let's say, one process. So as I said in my presentation, so you can reach out to us for a quick workshop with you. We'll walk you through what are the reports that we generate, what are the criteria we use for selecting a process. We do a workshop with you. And as I said, an ideal RPA journey, if you start with a smaller process or let's say medium complexity process, it will range from uh, 4 weeks up to 5 to 6 weeks. That's the maximum time we can see a benefit of an outcome. Anything else, Arpan, you want like to add before we close it?
I think you've covered it pretty well. So I'll just like to answer one more question that I have got on the chat. Is about the overall timeline to implement. So I would say it's good to start with like few processes, like 3 to 4 processes to start with as an organization, show the return on investment, and then move forward. So if we pick up quick winning prospects like processes, then we can implement that within 3 to 4 weeks. So if we pick up these kind of processes, this will show a lot of good return on investment very quickly, and people will not have to wait to see the output or the effectiveness of using RPA within the organization. So initially, you can consider around total 4 to 5 weeks, including the discovery phase, which will help us to implement a few processes within the organization. So that's how we can start the journey. Obviously, once organizations see the effectiveness of RPA, then you can expand it to other departments, identify the processes at a larger group, and then build a proper roadmap to implement the remaining use cases.
Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you for joining in today. Feel free to reach out to us, and our team will reach out to you for our feedback on the webinar. And thank you everyone for joining and spending your time with us. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.